everyone, Keren here from tuppencecoloured.co.uk. Thank you very much for joining me. This is the card that I've been making today, and if you stick with me I will show you how I did it. I've got a lid of one of my plastic storage boxes. You can use anything. I've even used a cat litter tray, clean one, in the past. And I've got the cheapest shaving foam that I could find. And I'm just going to give that a really good shake. Sorry about that. And I'm just going to I think I've just about exhausted that, which is why you don't get the, you know, the expensive stuff. So I'm just going to sort of smooth that off a little bit. And you can get an awful lot of impressions out of one tray load of this stuff. So what I would suggest that you do is have a whole load of paper ready, and plenty of inkers, and just go for it. I'm just going to wipe off my ruler. And although this is one of those crafts that's gloriously messy, it's also actually very clean because you're working with soap. So I've got some re-inkers here. I've got Smoky Slate, Sahara Sand, and Always Artichoke. Yes, I am actually using Always Artichoke. I have been a Stampin' Up demonstrator for something like 18 months now, and this is the first use that I have made of Always Artichoke in any shape or form. So I'm just putting in a good few drops, and same thing with, what have I got here? This is the Smoky Slate. And I'm just blobbing it all on. There's no rhyme or reason to this. Just have fun with it. And last of all, the Sahara Sand. Okay. So let me find something to stir it up with my bone folder. And I'm just making swooshies. Just spreading out those dots and making swooshies. Now, of course you don't have to use these colours, but I'm making a kind of industrial themed card, aren't I? So that is why I've gone with these rather grungy sorts of colours. Now, I've done this before, and it was one of my earliest projects actually, and I used really pretty pastel colours and got a really pretty card out of it. But today, not so pretty. Okay, oops, okay, how am I liking that? That's looking pretty good. So wash off my bone folder. As you see, comes off my bone folder nice and easily. That is that's a bit of archival ink that got on there. And I've also prepared some sprays with the same colours. So I've just put a few drops, and this is mixed in alcohol. It could be water. That was the Smoky Slate, and this is the Always Artichoke. Oh, that's dark. And last of all, a bit of Sahara Sand. So this is watercolour paper, some of our watercolour card, and I'm just going to plop that down. I'm just going to tap all over the back of it to make sure that all of it gets in contact with the foam. And if I wanted to, after this, I could go and do, you know, I could just put in a few more sprays and a few more drops, and I can ink it all up again. Right, so just let that sit there just for a few seconds. And oops, I've got my ruler ready, and I have a bucket underneath the table, because the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this away from the foam, and at this point you will think, oh dear, that hasn't worked very well, has it? But again, I'm just going to let that sit. Oh, and there's a bit there that's been missed, so I'm just going to do some intervention with my actual fingers, just so that everything's had some colour. I'm just going to let that sit there just for a second, and then I'm just going to scrape it off into the bucket. And I promise you, it is going into the bucket and not over my living room floor, because that would just be wrong. And this is what I'm doing. I'm just swiping off with the ruler. And there is my marbled card. So that's going to be put away to dry. Right, and that's the result. And I'm really quite pleased with that one. And while I had the tray there, I did go back with a piece of Very Vanilla, and I also dropped that one into the tray as well. Seemed a shame to waste all that ink. And that was the result. And I could have gone back and done more if I'd wanted to, or I could have added more colour. You just keep playing with the shaving foam as long as you want to. But for now, I'm going to take this piece away and I'm going to die cut it. This is the watercolour card, which I marbled with the shaving foam technique, and I've die cut it with the Sunburst Thinlits dies. And I'm going to mount it onto this piece of basic grey, which I've cut to just a little bit smaller than the front of my card blank, and my card blank is just a piece of A4 cut in half and then folded halfway. I don't need that for the moment, so I'm going to put that on one side. Now, while I was die cutting, I also cut this piece of plastic out as well, because I want to do some shading. I want to make my my sunburst stand out a bit, and I'm trying to decide where I want my lines to go. So I think about there is probably going to be it. Okay. And I've got my Stampin' sponge, smoky slate, and my smoky slate ink, and I'm just going to just kind of pounce around those edges, and I'm sorry for any bouncing that may occur. This is giving me a lovely texture. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Alright, now I want to mount this onto my background mat, which I've shadowed, and I want some dimensions, so I'm going to use these, which are foam strips. Now, they're a similar kind of material to dimensionals, but they're thicker. and I'm not going to go all the way to the end of the rays because I'm going to be cutting those off. I reach over here and get my piercing tool. This is where I keep all my tools and the bits and pieces that I'm going to need. It's one of our stamp cases, and you can buy. They come in sets of 4. You can buy the thin DVD type ones, or you can buy the big ones that are like an old VHS case, or you can buy the half size ones, and they're really, really useful. They're a very convenient size, and you can fit all sorts of things in them. And that's where I keep my stamping markers. I keep it in one of those. And okay. So the backs of these are no easier to get off than the dimensionals are, though. That much I will say. Now, strictly speaking, I'm doing this for the sake of completeness, but really you need so many for dimension, and you need, how many of these are I've done, and some are just for sticking, so you don't really need, as long as you've got some that will adhere to your project, you don't really need to take them all off. But for some reason we all do it. We all do. And they are sticking to me. So that's fun. And I was asked the other day if I'm going to be doing another live stream. And I am. So I'm going to be doing one on the 6th of July, which is a Wednesday evening. And I'm going to be kicking off at about 7:30 British Standard Time. So anything can happen. We are already taking bets onto as to whether or not the tripod will remain in one piece. So where are my shadows? Don't want to having spent an awful lot of time putting the shadows in, I don't really want to spend time covering them up. Okay. So there are my sun rays. Now I'm going to turn my card over. And actually, just bear with me 1 second, because I'm going to go and get my big old scissors. Okay. And get my big crafting scissors here, because when you want to do a continuous straight line, it is easier to do it in one chop. You get a better result, rather than if you're just snipping away. Okay. And that is going to be the background basis of my card. Alright, I noticed that I've got some white edges showing here, and in some places the edges of the foam are showing. So I've got my smoky slate and my finger dauber, and I'm just going to run along the edges of the card, just where it's been cut, just to take the colour down a bit, and I'm going to push into there, just to colour the ends of the foam. And again, you don't have to do this, but it's one of those little finishing touches that I think do make a difference. Okay, I'm also just going to maybe catch the edges of the sunburst in the middle. I've got another scrap of the watercolour card stroke paper. This is another scrap of the watercolour card, and eventually I'm going to stamp my my image onto that. But for now it's a little bit too clean and bright looking, so I'm going to use the sprays I prepared earlier to grunge it down a bit. So this is the Sahara sand, and I'm spraying from quite high up. See, my hand looks big because I want a nice, and I'm not really, I don't want to drench the card. I just want to make it look sort of old and grungy. And I think that will do. I'm just going to put a bit of Always Artichoke. That's quite a strong colour, so I'm just going to keep that to the edges. And I'm working on my craft mat, as you can see, because I don't want to get this all over my table. Okay, and I think that will be enough, so I'm going to let that dry. I'm using Guy Greetings, and I've used the little car, and I've also been using To a Classic from the same set, and we'll get to the sentiment a bit later. But right now I want to do some out of the frame die cutting. Now the way I'm going to do this, I've got my my layering circles framelits here, and I'm just going to pick one that's about the right size. It's not too big but not too small either, so that one is a possible. Let's go to the next size up, which I think is possibly too big, and that one is too small, so I think this one is the Goldilocks one. I'm going to push those out of the way for a moment, and I've got a pencil, and I'm just going to decide where I want the car to come out of the frame, and I'm putting the inner part of the frame against that point. And now I'm just going to trace a bit above and a bit below that point. I'm just following the shape of the circle. Okay, right, so put that on one side for the moment, because now I'm going to do some fussy cutting. So I'm going to cut out the shape of the car, and I'm not going to bother about the shadow underneath its wheels because you're never going to see that. I'm going to cut up pretty much to where that line crosses the stamp. Now I did stamp this in basic grey archival, and I used my Misty, my brand new toy, my Misty, because this watercolour paper is quite textured, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to have to make a couple of attempts at it. And if you haven't got a Misty, you can use some sort of stamp positioner, because, and make sure that you've got something, you know, you've got a good surface underneath it, because again, these are photopolymer stamps, and we all know with photopolymer stamps, you know, you need something underneath them. Right, so I've cut up to the line, and I'm going to cut away beyond it on this black shadow here. So I'm just going to cut in a little bit, and around the headlamp, so I'm going to fussy cut and I'm just going to fussy cut back along that line on the radiator there. And don't panic, because nobody's going to see that when it's finished, okay? Right, so now I'm going to take my die, and I'm going to slip the cutout bit over the edge of my over the edge of the die, and what will happen now when I run it through the Big Shot, which I'm about to do, is that this bit, which is on this side of the die, won't cut. So I'm going to go and do that, and I will be back in just a few minutes. Right, all right, let's start doing some final assembly. So here's my card, which I previously cut out, and this is a circle of Always Artichoke, and I coloured the card in Always Artichoke. I know, my least favourite Stampin' Up colour, and I'm using it. Wow, right outside my comfort zone today, guys and gals. So I'm going to adhere the card to the, a bit of snail on here. Which way around is this? That way. My car. Now you see I didn't want to do that. I did not want to do that. What I wanted to do was put the snail on this one, and I'm going to put dimensionals on the back of the car. So I just want to sort of tack that into, just decide roughly where that's going to go, and I think that's about it. And I'm going to put dimensionals. Oh dear, it's a hard life. I've just started my summer leave from work, so I'm a bit demo happy at the moment. What's that doing there? Come on, come here, you naughty dimensional. You. Now you see that's where I cut it. So I'm just going to pop a dimensional over the back there just to keep it all in place. And you know, you can't tell, can you? You really can't tell. So flick the bit back off of the dimensionals. Here we go. And put that into position. Press it all down. And we're nearly done. I've stamped to a classic from the same Guy Greeting set that the car is from, and I've stamped it on a scrap of the same piece of watercolour card which we spritzed up with reinkers in alcohol. That's what we stamped that on. I can't remember whether I said that or not, but if I didn't, that's what it is. And I've got our new classic label punch, very fittingly, and I've already flagged the one end, but I'm going to show you how I did it. So I've cut this very, very narrow. It only just fits the words actually, so that it will slide inside the punch. I'm just putting just the edge. I won't cut, nothing else is going into the punch. So I'm just going to line that up and center it, and ooh, stay boy stay, there you go. And I'm just going to line that up and center it, and snip, there you go. And if I bring my card back, and if I just put, actually I don't think it's going to need a full dimensional. Full dimension is going to be too much, so I'm going to take some of the bits from off the side here, these little edge pieces here. So I'm just going to take a couple of those and just fit them just on the back here. Come on. Oops. Got the wrong end. That was silly. And just a little bit on the other piece there. And just pop that down just where I want it to be. Is that straight? I think I like it there. All I need to do now is to mount that onto my card blank, and I've put tear and tape onto the back of the mat here because there's so much dimension. I don't want to be messing about really with fast fuse or snail or anything like that, so I'm going to go old school with the old double-sided tape here. And just so that I've got a little bit of wiggle room and a bit of time to pull things down, I'm just starting the backing off my tape, but I'm not taking it all off because that lets me decide where I want it to go, and that's not quite straight. I'm just going to angle that a little bit just so that I can see it, and I think, oh, almost, not quite, almost. I think that is it. So once I've done that, once I'm happy with that, I can pull away the backing off the rest of my tape, and there my card is finished. So there is the finished vintage card, and I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and if so, I would absolutely love it if you would leave me a comment or click the like button. And if you want to see more of my videos, please subscribe to my channel, because I shall be posting more quite soon. And I think I've mentioned before, but I have a blog, I have a Facebook page. You can get there from the links in the more information box below, and that's also where you will find more information about my live stream. So please do visit the Facebook page. But for now, thank you very, very much for watching, and I hope that I will see you again soon. Bye bye.